Good morning, fellow traders. Happy Monday morning, July the 28th. Black Coffee Trader with you here this morning, looking at the daily trade plan, kind of the weekly plan ahead of us. What are we looking at? And wow, the question I'm going to ask myself this morning is, how long is this move going to continue? What a move up. And we had a big gap up on the Sunday night open, pushed up to once again new highs. On the NASDAQ, we made new highs on Friday, and we have once again made new highs. All the way up here to the 23,587s, almost 588s. And we have seen a pretty deep pullback and kind of pretty much filled that gap. Right here, we've not quite reached the gap fill fully, but we're close and kind of rebounding here. So I think the big thing I'm looking at this morning or today on the NASDAQ, I really, at some point with this move that we're seeing, there's going to be a pullback. We're going to see a pullback. And honestly, having a pretty big fall, a pretty deep pullback is really not bad. It is really not bad for this market. So if that occurs, let's not lose our minds and think that the sky is falling and it's all over and now we're going to new lows. That's not what's going to happen. We're probably going to see a pullback into some major levels. I think on the NASDAQ, I haven't looked at this in a lot of detail, but I think we would have to lose this 22.8 area probably, possibly even down here the 22.2s. I've got that one highlighted, and then we get down below the daily 50. You'd really have to lose this area, really the recent lows here from at the 22.800s. I think that would be kind of the line in the sand. If we start to lose that, then you start to look for some bigger downtrend move happening potentially. But a pullback to any of these levels, all the way down here into the CPI PPI high area, is really not bad. And so I think that's something to just mentally be prepared for, that at some point we're going to see that happen. Maybe not all in one day, maybe not all, but we may see a pullback to refuel. We've been in a beautiful trend. I mean, we have just really, we touched this little trend line that I drew 1, 2, 3, 4 times here over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And we really just continue to bounce higher within that channel. So I think that for today, I think the obvious thing to look for is the high of day from Friday. Let's see if what happens here pre-market until we get to market open. Do we see a pullback to that Friday high, and does that push us higher again, or will we see a deeper pullback? I really would love to see this pullback right here to this area around the 22,420s, 22,410s, 405s. This range would be an excellent pullback on the NASDAQ. If we get something to that, that would be a beautiful move to the upside, or a pullback along for further upside again, and that would be probably nearly touching this trend line, which would follow this trend that we've been on. Every time we touch it, we seem to bounce higher. At some point, obviously, that will not be the case, but if we get that, that could be an excellent long opportunity today on the NASDAQ. Obviously, a deeper pullback down into this area around the 23,440s or 23,340s would be nice, or the Friday low. Once you lose this area, high of day, the 22,410s, 415s, the 23,340s, the Friday low, then I think you really start to look for some, and possibly before that, if we do get a failure, I'm not really looking to short this. That could be a nice little short, but I would potentially short this one. If we do get a failure below this area, the 24,415s, if we do get a break and retest below, that could set up a decent little short. Again, right here, we had a little bit of a fallout from this trend, just a little bit. I mean, basically, we dropped out of it from a 170 to the 145, so, a 25-point drop. But if you start to see a bigger move, I would expect, if we fall out of this trend and we see a break and retest short opportunity, I would expect to see a little bit of a bigger move potentially. So something to keep in mind. Again, I think the healthy and the really strong trade opportunity today would be a pullback to this level, probably even more so than the break of the Friday high. I think the Friday high might be a trade opportunity, but it might not give us what we really want. But I think a pullback to here might give us a bigger push. Again, we chart these levels We have this technical analysis, and then we trade what the market gives us. We trade what we see, not what we think we're going to get. I have to remind myself of that as much as anybody else does. But a couple key and very clear areas to look for on the NASDAQ this morning. ES, if you think this trend channel on the NASDAQ is impressive, look at this one on the ES. I mean, what a rocket move to the upside. This is just spectacular. And true to form, you know, we have touched this thing about actually twice now. We didn't quite touch it here. This has not been quite as heavy of a touch point trend, so to speak. But I want to just be clear. I'm not trying to be Tory trades. I just drew these trend lines just because this kind of trend channel, just because I just seeing how we stay within the channel. I'm not trying to trade off of it, but interesting how we have touched this thing a couple of times. So the same theory really applies on the ES. I think if we lose this area around the 6227, 6260s, I think this really is the line in the sand for me. As a matter of fact, I think I should make this thing older. I do like this area. Let's make that brighter. If we lose that area, I think we're looking at a bigger downside move, but pullbacks anywhere in between here could be just a refuel for further upside. In the intraday, or what we're looking at today, let's kind of get a little bit of a glimpse of what we're thinking. So obviously this one here is still a big area. I really like the pullback to the 2373s. That may not be something that we see today, but we could see a pullback right here to the 6406s. The 6400 area range, 64, or to the low of day from Friday, the 6402. This little 10-point range, a pullback into this area would be very, very healthy, and I think a very nice long opportunity. Likewise, we have a high coming in here, beautiful little break and retest there on Friday before the end of day. So a pullback to the 6420s would be something to look for as well. You could almost add another little level right here. I didn't do it. You could create a little channel from the 20s to the 16s, but I think we'll leave it there. I'm okay with the 6120s and pull back here to the 6400s. Pullbacks to that area would be great. Again, very similar to the NASDAQ. We got the high day from Friday, this purple line sitting right here. We could get a pullback there for a small little move. Again, I just don't think that's going to give us the big move that we're looking for. Now it very well could be. If you take previous highs, turn them into new lows, that could really be a springboard. Previous Friday highs turning to new lows. Here we had Thursday highs were coming in right around here. We pretty much made new lows on Friday. So maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe we don't see the pullback. Maybe we do. But if we get a strong move from the Friday highs, that could be pretty powerful. Could be a pretty powerful move to the upside. So again, looking for these pullback longs. Do they set up? And if we start to lose a lot of this area, then obviously the bias has to flip, and we look for shorts into some of these lower levels. The Dow Jones has, again, we had a gap fill up. I'm not sure what caused this gap fill last night. So that's the Sunday night open, but the Dow Jones has been the Dow Jones and the Russell have both been a little bit more lagging behind the ES and the NQ. So that is one area that is like, the thought goes through my mind, are we going to see, because of the fact that this is not following the general trend as powerfully as ES and NQ, does that mean that we're going to see some kind of a deeper pullback before we fuel higher again? I don't know. It's just a thought that goes through my mind. But on the Dow Jones, we can't forget about this big area around the 800s. I just can't seem to get that out of my mind. This is such a clear and clean level. That was the Friday low. Again, that was one of those trades that I probably should have taken. Wasn't confident in it on Friday. Didn't take it, which is fine. But excuse me, we retested that level perfectly. Took several trades in this area as we kind of semi-tested this area, but we did get the full test, and we could see that again. We could see a pullback to that area again. I think the more intraday thing I'm looking at is this range from the 45,000s to the 45.11s or 45.30s 40s to the 45.11s, 45.10s. If you get a pullback into that range, that could set up a beautiful long pushing back up. Again, here we have the Friday high sitting, and we're kind of, right now, we're looking at almost a break and retest short opportunity below the Friday high of day. So that if this was market open, I would really be looking at this to potentially see a short down into some of these levels. I would be more inclined to short the Dow Jones today or the Russell than I am to short the NASDAQ or the ES. Just my opinion where I'm at mentally and where I'm seeing this market trend. I just think it's very, very dangerous to short such a strong bullish market. If we do short, it has to be a quick short. We're not looking for a huge move unless we really start to lose a lot of real estate, so to speak. So back to the Dow Jones. Sorry for flipping around here back and forth, but looking for pullbacks probably into this area, really anything down to this 800s. If we lose the 800s, we are shorting into the daily 20, which is really starting to catch up to that major area. But that would be something to look for, is a short once we lose that range. Russell, last but not least, very similar to the Dow Jones. Again, we've had the gap and we've almost closed the gap, not quite, but a pullback and actually a pullback long off of the Friday high of day would be pretty nice. I think probably need to wait until we close the gap fully down to the 2273s. But if we do close that gap and get a hold there, you could definitely see a push higher. Could also see a short setup as we break and retest that Friday end of day high here. So if we get a break and retest below there, that could set up a nice short into the CPI high print. So there are some opportunities that maybe present themselves on the Russell and on the Dow Jones. Again, as I sit here this morning, I'm not as interested in the Dow Jones and the Russell as I am in the ES. Whoops, wrong chart here. As the ES and the NASDAQ. I think there are some excellent potential possibilities setting up on the NASDAQ and on the ES for pullback long, specifically this high of day, the 22.410s, we'll call it, on the NASDAQ, and on the ES, looking at the Friday high of day, the 64.21s. I think those are really, really, really nice. If we could get anything in that range, that could set up a really, really nice pullback long today, or at least in the morning session. The other thing to keep in mind this week is we have a lot of news. There are a lot of news events going on this week. Oops, let me shrink this down so we can actually see it. So be careful of that. Today, there's nothing on the docket. Tomorrow, we have JOLTS at 10 o'clock. On Wednesday, we have non-farm unemployment change. We have advanced GDP, that's at 8:15 and 8:30. We have some yellow folder events here as well, pending home sales at 10. And then you have the big FOMC statement on Wednesday. Does not look like we're expecting to see a rate cut. 4.5% is what is the expectation. There's been a lot of rumblings about the Fed, the rate cuts, what we should be seeing, what we are going to see, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously the FOMC statement on Wednesday will be pretty big, probably. If there's no rate cut, if everything stays kind of status quo, it might not be as big of an impact as some people are thinking that it may be. Thursday, we have PCE, you have unemployment cost index, you have unemployment claims, at 8:30. You've got all those things. On Friday, we have average hourly earnings. You've got non-farm employment change. That's usually a big one. You've got unemployment rate. And then at 10 o'clock, you have ISM manufacturing PMI. So there's a lot of big news happening later this week. Tomorrow we have one at 10 o'clock, JOLTS. But beyond that, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we are heavy with news. So knowing that is the other thing that could create a catalyst to maybe make some bigger moves on this market, so that may be the thing that creates a pullback or rockets to new highs. So be careful, be aware of those things, and trade accordingly. So there you have it. That's the thought process where I'm at this morning. Hopefully we can continue the green trend that we were on. I had a really nice week last week. I did buy a bunch of evaluation accounts. I am looking to pass a bunch of evals today. In fact, I'm probably going to be focused more heavily on trading my eval accounts with Apex today than I am trading my funded accounts that I have. I'm really going to try to take advantage of this 90% off sale that Apex has going on. I do need to update my trading expenses. I did buy a couple $100 worth of evals, so do need to update that. But don't forget, we do have that 90% off sale with Apex. And again, thank you for using code BCT. If you are using Take Profit Trader, Apex, or using TradeZilla journaling software, my code BCT gets you that best deal. So again, that 90% off sale runs until tomorrow. We do have some time, but I do want to take advantage of that, and I'm going to be pretty aggressive trying to pass a bunch of Apex accounts and hopefully get to 20. So will the market cooperate? Will it give us the setup that we need in order to get there? That would be nice. So, all right, I'll leave you with that. Have a great trading day. Have a good week, and let's stay green, my friends. I'll catch up with you on the next one. Take care, and so long.